Find out what to do when your HMO says no. Tonight at 11 on News 4.
This is a News 4 special, the crash of Flight 592, continuing coverage.
Chopper 4 catches the very first glimpse of hope. One of Flight 592's black boxes has been recovered. Family members may finally get their answers to put this tragic chapter in their lives behind them. For now, the painstaking search continues, and News 4 will bring you through each and every step. Good evening, everyone. I'm Cambrell Marshall.
And I'm Ann Roberts. This is a News 4 special report. Happening right now, one black box has been recovered. You have seen the pictures from Chopper 4. Now listen closely as officials take off with one of those black boxes.
Was the box in the brown van? Tell us the radio. In the brown van? No. It's in this car? The box is in there.
The NTSB is confirming one black box has in fact been found. They have matched up the serial numbers on the plane's flight recorder box and are beginning to decode that right now. Of course, the scene was captured exclusively today from Chopper 4 as that box was being plucked from the swamp. Let's go back to the sky right now in News 4's Dave Stanley.
Well, Ann, and right now as the sun sets over the Everglades, all is quiet at the staging area. Let's go down below, and there it is, the actual point of impact. Every day we're getting a clear and clear picture of this terrible tragedy. At the moment, the airboats are docked, the equipment stored away. Metro-Dade buses are all ready to transport those involved with today's operation back home. But in terms of productivity, a very successful day. Why don't we kind of swing over right now to show the staging area. As you mentioned, and one of the flight data recorders has been recovered, something you saw happen and which was just seen by the world over CBS News. I was just talking with the two truck drivers who brought the generator and air conditioner. We speculated what the white tents were used for, and we were right. They're being used for those involved in the search and rescue operation to refresh themselves and also to store food and water. This operation will be picking up again at first light tomorrow morning. It just knocked off for another day about 40 minutes ago. Cambrell?
All right, thank you very much. Dave Stanley reporting live from Chopper 4. So much has unfolded today involving the crash of Flight 592. We want to get you caught up to date with the very latest information. Anita Smith is live in the Satellite Center to give us an overview.
And Cambrell, what a day it has been, from finding that very important item that will hopefully help tell us why Flight 592 went down, to learning that even the smallest items can help identify the 109 people once living, breathing human beings. The most dramatic moment of today, finding the DC-9's flight data recorder, one of two so-called black boxes, only came after a full afternoon of scorching, hot, tedious, dirty work. It began about 12:15. Metro-Dade divers entered the water near the flags marking their spot from yesterday. In precision form, they began plodding inch by inch through the thick muck, peering closely at each and every object of interest. Look closely, you can see how cumbersome the biohazard gear is that protects their skin and eyes.
Gloves, taping everything on, then putting on large rubber suits on top of that, masks.
An NTSB investigator called these divers the key to this recovery operation. This levee, 300 yards away from the actual point of the plane's impact, is where they began the day at sunup. These airboats take them to the crash site and bring back whatever they find, such as that black box and some 40 body parts. The biggest found so far, a knee. And the disturbing news is Dade's renowned former medical examiner admitted today families will likely only have a few remains to bury.
So far, there is not much hope that we're going to recover any intact bodies.
But sometimes even a piece of flesh with a tattoo found in this swamp can identify a person, a pacemaker, a jaw, found during hours of painstaking work. Very difficult for all involved in that work and for the families of those victims. Also today, the Federal Aviation Administration began a safety review of ValuJet's planes. Live in the Satellite Center, Anita Smith, News 4 South Florida.
All right, Anita, thank you. After seeing the devastating pictures, of course, getting on a plane may be the farthest thing from your mind, but it is something most of us do. We sent News 4's Gary Nelson on the same ValuJet flight, now with a new number, to see if people are truly afraid of flying. He's live in Atlanta right now. Gary.
Well, Ann, I must say that I was a little nervous, an irrational fear on my part, but I was nonetheless a little nervous as I boarded Flight 588 today from Miami to Atlanta, the replacement flight for 592. I was not alone. There were 109 other passengers with me. ValuJet Flight 588 to Atlanta, Flight 592's replacement was crowded. A very quiet crowd putting on a brave face.
I feel okay. No problem.
A little bit of a nervous laugh. A nervous laugh. Lots of nerves could be seen among the ValuJet passengers unable to escape the terrible news of the crash. One man beneath a ValuJet poster struck a prayerful pose.
Please come to the podium on the right side.
Gate agents made matter-of-fact announcements, no mention of the tragedy. As we boarded the plane,
Can't begin to feel how you must feel. I am sorry.
a flight attendant was grateful for a word of condolence. On board our plane, ValuJet's chief pilot, overseeing things in the jump seat of the cockpit, part of the airline's stepped-up retraining plan. Our plane left about an hour late, about the same as Flight 592. On takeoff, it seemed all of us were sensitive to every noise or bump or vibration, probably more imagined than real. My seatmate, Bob Kennedy, had been booked on Saturday's ill-fated flight.
I was supposed to be home Sunday for Mother's Day and my wife's birthday, so I was trying to get home Saturday for it, and luckily and thank God I got delayed in Miami and I didn't make that flight.
He had a drink for his nerves on the house. Everyone drank on the house today. And as the flight continued, nervousness gave way to relaxed conversation. Folks looked out the windows, took in the scenery. And an hour and 45 minutes after leaving Miami, we touched down safely in Atlanta. The 109 passengers on ValuJet Flight 588 had conquered their fear of flying. And our captain on our flight today, Dave Gibbs, with 25 years experience, says he's never had an aviation accident and he's never known lightning to strike twice in the same place. I must say we were struck by the courteousness and the obvious dedication of the ValuJet crew today, folks who are themselves suffering through a corporate family tragedy. At Atlanta's Hartsfield International Airport, I'm Gary Nelson, News 4 South Florida.
Gary, thank you. In fact, we can't lose sight of the fact they have lost one of their own in this.
Absolutely, they certainly have. We have with us now an expert who has been flying for many years. Stroby Landers, a former Pan Am and National pilot who has some insight on the black box that we were watching as it was being recovered today. Captain, you with us?
Yes, I am.
We had a chance to look at that box being pulled from the swamp. What do you suspect is the next step, the first thing that the experts will do once they get that box in their hands?
Probably wash the dirt off of it. But secondarily, after that, they have to get it to the lab. Generally, the information that's inside of the flight data recorder is information associated to the position of the flight controls, the engine RPMs, the power the engine's generating, the altitude, the airspeed, in reference to a timeline. And obviously, whenever the impact occurs, the timeline stops, and they have a recording of a period of time prior to the impact. And it'll tell them where the flight controls were positioned, the output of the engines, the airspeed of the aircraft, the altitude of the aircraft, the attitude of the aircraft, and generally give them an idea of what happened prior to the crash.
All right, Captain Lander, quickly, if they only found one of two black boxes, and in this case that's the point, which is most important, the cockpit voice recorder or the flight data recorder?
Both of them have the same relevancy as far as I'm concerned with the importance factor. The flight data recorder gives information from the airplane. The cockpit voice recorder gives information as to the voices in the cockpit, what's said, and their communications with the tower.
All right, Captain Stroby Lander, thank you for your insight.
All right, thank you very much. Well, from the pilot to the passengers, there are so many lives affected by this devastating crash. Robert Burns has been with the grieving families. He is live in Miami Springs.
Cambrell, it's a process that will continue through months and even years. As a matter of fact, long after the search is done, long after the burials, these families will continue to grieve. All day we've been on hand here at the Crown Sterling Hotel in Miami Springs as family members from all over, literally all over the United States, have started to pour into Miami to be on hand for the identification of their loved one when finally that opportunity comes to light. One of the things that has occurred is the state of Florida has sent in a psychologist, someone to help the counseling process, someone to help the healing start to begin. This is just one of the many heartbroken families, all victims of Flight 592. I think that every parent envisions themselves going before their child.
Well, I would have definitely, I mean, I was hoping in my lifetime I would never have to go through this because it's my only child. I mean, I didn't have any grandkids, so.
Erlene Pearson says she'll never fully recover from the death of her daughter Lisa, but what recovery she makes, she'll make on the broad shoulders of her brother. As a big brother, you don't mind being a shoulder to cry on?
No, I've got big shoulders to lean on, so it's just been very tragic for us.
Will she need a shoulder to cry on?
She will need a lot of shoulders to cry on. These families are going to do a lot of crying once they stop denying. But as news come in, and slowly it becomes more imminent what has really happened.
Until the body identification process is complete, the Pearsons and dozens of other families will have the challenge of a lifetime.
We're just here right now to see what we can do to get ourselves moving again, and we're hopeful the team is going to make some progress within the next day or so that we can kind of get things moving again and get our lives back together again.
Live in Miami Springs, I'm Robert Burns, News 4 South Florida.
A difficult healing process ahead. Thank you very much. Naturally, the victims' families are having a very difficult time dealing with the information coming out. He just said it. And you can understand why. We talk of remains, but to them, remember, these are loved ones. So how are searchers dealing with this aspect of the recovery? Aline Sergani is on the scene with their story.
And I can tell you it's not easy. And as you can see behind me, as workers continue to pack up for the day, they go home this evening and prepare for another grueling day tomorrow. As you know, the conditions out here are just miserable.
It's not the most efficient of operations, and for these folks, it's tough going.
As rescuers search for the remains of the victims, they do so very, very carefully. The conditions surrounding this search can be dangerous. Teams go out in small units for small amounts of time.
They're basically doing this with their hands and feeling around with their feet and seeing what they can discover.
Searchers work in 20-minute shifts, and it takes them even longer just to prepare for that search.
They're having to dress up ahead of time in biohazard equipment, gloves, taping everything on, then putting on large rubber suits on top of that, masks.
And while they conduct the very delicate task of combing for remains, they also have to worry about the gators.
On the top of the boat, there was a sniper with an automatic weapon with periscope on it and a handgun in case of alligators. So this is tough stuff out there.
Tough stuff not just out here, but also at the medical examiner's office. Our team coverage continues now with my colleague, Bobby Harley. Bobby?
That's right, Aline. Now, the pictures we've been seeing from Chopper 4 all day, there's obviously a very precise, a very methodical system in place to search for that wreckage. Now, you have to think, too, for 109 people who died in that crash in the Everglades, so far the largest body part they have recovered is the size of a knee. So those measurements, the way they're walking very precisely through that water, is very detailed. They're trying to find some of those body parts. They don't expect to find any body intact, just to give family and relatives some kind of closure in this. Earlier this afternoon, those body recovery teams described the process they're taking to us.
They were able to collect approximately 3 body bags full of material. Okay, and once they find a part, it's given to the detectives on the airboat. It's labeled. There are labels attached to the body part. It's put in a body part bag, and then it's taken back for examination by the medical examiner.
Tagged and brought here to the medical examiner's office and further identification. Now, we heard how those workers out there are being protected physically, but we also wonder mentally and emotionally how they're prepared for that. It's got to be pretty hard, and they told us it was. How emotionally, how are they dealing with that? Are there counselors available for them?
It would be a traumatic thing, I think, for anybody, regardless of their experience in this kind of thing. You know, I mean, they're actually recovering like fingers and hands and feet, that kind of thing. It would be traumatic for even the most seasoned homicide investigator.
And all that was Commander Al Hopper from the Metro-Dade Police Force. He is in charge of the body recovery units out at the site in the Everglades. Now, those parts are being brought back here, and they're put into categories. They're put into easily identifiable parts, all the way down to looking for things like tattoos, jewelry, clothing that could help identify it later on. But it's a long, expensive, and painstaking process ahead tonight here in downtown Miami. Reporting live, I'm Bobby Harley, News 4, South Florida.
All right, thank you very much, Bobby. Now, we've been able to look at the scene and the recovery of all of the evidence so far, but what actually happened as that plane went down? News 4 has found 3 eyewitnesses who can answer that very question, and John Dutzman has that story from Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, Cambrell, the people with the best look of this crash were up here in Broward County. You're about to hear an exclusive interview with a gentleman who was fishing, who is also a private pilot, and he talked to us this afternoon.
As it crossed the canal, the bank angle increased to 90 degrees. The nose dropped low about 15 degrees pitch, and the bank continued to roll to the right, and the pitch dropped suddenly so that the plane began to roll inverted and shortly thereafter contacted the ground.
Walton Little, a private pilot, gives his version of the crash that he witnessed while fishing in the Everglades.
I was putting this worm on this hook when I heard that plane, you know.
Chris Osceola was also fishing near the crash site with his uncle. Both of them saw the plane go down.
Just like a bullet, man. I mean, it was just like this, like that, and then once it got like that, the thing just went straight on down.
I saw a tremendous sheet of grass, mud, and water go at least 150 feet into the air.
Once that thing hit, it was just like a bomb going off.
Loudest thing I've ever heard in my life.
The only thing that really bothered me was that, you know, we went up there to see if we could do something. There was just nothing we could do because there was just nothing there.
Was it frightening at all? It seemed unreal more than frightening. A short while later, I felt some different strange feelings that I've never felt before. But at the moment, I was concentrating on trying to commit to memory everything that I'd just seen, because I knew there would be 1,000 questions later by the authorities.
And that was John Dutzman reporting live from Fort Lauderdale.
A sight they will never forget. This story continues to develop minute by minute. There is much more ahead you'll want to hear.
Are the planes we fly really safe? Al Sunshine asks the question and gets the answers from the FAA.
I think that, you know, families do want the bodies. They want to bury their loved ones. And I think as a civilized society, we should make every effort to do so.
An investigation started early this year, and in the wake of this crash, the Federal Aviation Administration is taking an even closer look at ValuJet. News 4 consumer reporter Al Sunshine has some alarming news about airline safety.
The Federal Aviation Administration was so concerned about earlier ValuJet accidents, it began a special safety inspection back in February. But despite that stepped-up federal surveillance, Flight 592 carried 109 passengers to their death. And despite the accident, the U.S. Department of Transportation still considers ValuJet safe to fly. So, did FAA inspectors miss something? Well, just 2 weeks ago, Washington lawmakers were warned about FAA management problems jeopardizing the flying public and some federal inspectors signing off on improper repairs.
Some, such as during overhaul periods, such as flight controls being repaired incorrectly, I consider the most dangerous.
Longtime FAA critic Wayne Williams thinks we're not getting the real answers on what kind of problems may be surfacing on the airlines we fly.
I think we're going to have more crashes because of inadequate inspections, inadequate maintenance, things like that. You cannot fly on the cheap for long.
Is that happening a lot in this economy?
Well, I think so.
And he's not the only one. Senator Bob Graham told me today he'd support a full congressional hearing into whether federal safety experts are really tough enough on their inspections.
Commercial airliners aren't supposed to fall out of the air, so when one does, something went wrong, and it's a legitimate question as to whether that something should have been caught by an FAA inspector before it killed over 100 people.
Al Sunshine, News 4, South Florida.
Well, still ahead, the most informed forensic expert in the world is helping with this disaster.
Hear how he plans to identify the victims of this crash. He says nothing is impossible.
And here is another clear view only from Chopper 4 of this scene. We'll be right back.
This recovery process is so incredibly difficult that a prominent medical examiner is coming out of retirement to aid in the identification process. Dr. Joseph Davis served as Dade County Medical Examiner for 40 years. He also served as a consultant on some very high-profile cases, including the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy and civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King. He was also involved in the investigation into the death of Elvis Presley.
And earlier today, Dr. Davis held a news conference to talk about how difficult this is. Quietly and calmly, he told us this task ahead will be tedious, trying, and perhaps close to impossible.
I feel that it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to identify everybody. But that remains to be seen. So far, there is not much hope that we're going to recover any intact bodies. And I think anybody who's seen the aerial photographs of that crash scene knows why.
He's been talking about the fact that certainly one of the biggest parts of an individual was a kneecap early on today, so it is an incredible process. We really don't like to talk about it, and unfortunately all of us in South Florida now are thrust into that topic.
Many family members will be denied a sense of closure, not having a burial, and it's very difficult in their healing process.
Yeah, experts say they need that process. We've got more ahead on this special edition of News 4.
We'll be right back.
I would like to close by just saying that this is probably going to be the most difficult and largest crash that we've ever had in terms of fatalities.
Our coverage on the crash of Flight 592 is far from over. We already are hard at work on the 11 o'clock news. Of course, we'll have the very latest pictures from Chopper 4, pictures you won't see anywhere else. And News 4 investigator Mark Hyman has uncovered a very disturbing tale of danger in the airways. Here is exclusive interview with the pilot who is ready to blow the whistle.
That is all for this special edition of News 4. The Star Trek schedule for today will air tomorrow.
And we will be back to regular programming, the cut-ins as they are warranted.
We want to thank you all for joining us.
Here's a look at the special memories of this day, a tragedy this weekend in South Florida. We'll let the pictures tell the story.